What is up, guys? It's Trey from District Baseball. You can follow me on Twitter at reverse 2Rs, 2Ss, and you can follow the show at District BSB as well. And on TikTok and YouTube, follow us at District Baseball. Today I'm bringing you a solo episode of District Baseball because Nick, well, he is in coach mode right now as his squad attempts to make it to the finals. They have the semifinal game coming up soon, so he's been really busy. He'll be back whenever he wraps up his season, and we'll be really getting going when we both aren't as busy. Things just keep popping up, but regardless, we're here today. We're going to be talking about some baseball and what happened this past week in MLB. Normally we post these on Mondays, by the way. This week's coming out on Tuesday. It's just been really hectic, so we're trying to stay somewhat on schedule. So bear with us as we continue on with the MLB season, but we're going to get it started with a little 3-up, 3-down action. So, 3-up, 3-down. This week is going to start with the Philadelphia Phillies. As much as I don't love to say that because I am an Nats fan, the Phillies are basically the best team in baseball right now, and there's not much of a debate. I mean, the Twins have won 17 of their last 20 as of right now when I'm recording this, so they have a claim, but the Phillies are 20-5 in their last 25 games. They're 28-13 in total, and as we all anticipated and knew would happen, it's all about Alec Boehm and Ranger Suarez. Yeah, me too. I didn't think this was going to happen either. But despite an injury to Trey Turner that has him sidelined right now and will probably miss about 6 weeks with a hamstring injury, they're rolling right along. Alec Boehm is really impressed to start the year. I'm not sure how long that's going to be able to keep up, but he's definitely made some strides to get better, especially defensively, and he's definitely a good contact guy. That has been able to actually hit the ball a little harder this year. Ranger Suarez has always been a pretty good pitcher, but right now he is dealing, as well as Christopher Sanchez. Zach Wheeler as well, though he did get lit up a little bit yesterday, has been still pretty solid. They're just really good pitching and really good with the bats. Bryce Harper's getting it going now as well. So once they get healthy with Trey Turner, it's going to be pretty dangerous. And they're looking to usurp the Braves of that NL East crown because the Braves have been pretty dominant in the division, and the Phillies want to stake their claim, so let's see if they can do it. But our first down is going to be the Pirates bullpen. This was on Skenes Day, by the way, which we'll get to in a little bit, but the Pirates bullpen really struggled right after Paul Skenes left that game. Kyle Nichols, I believe, came in first, and really, I don't even know if he got an out. He might have got one out in that inning. But basically what happened was between three different pitchers, this was Kyle Nichols, Josh Fleming, and Colin Holderman, the Pirates allowed 6 walks with the bases loaded in one inning. I'm not sure if that's ever happened. I don't have the stat in front of me to say if that's a record or not, but it's got to be a rarity. And it was even more weird because right in the middle of it, there was a rain delay for like an hour and a half. And as soon as the rain, so there was like 4 walks before the rain delay, and 2 pitchers, and then Colin Holderman was the first pitcher in after the delay, and he walked 2 more guys. It was chaos. Funnily enough, though, Pittsburgh won that game somehow, so maybe it didn't end up being an L, but it's still pretty bad, guys. They gotta get that cleaned up down there. But back to the positives, we'll head over to Tommy Pham, who isn't maybe perceived as the most positive guy, but he has had a positive impact on this Chicago White Sox team, who is 9-6 since he's joined the team. 15 games, 9-6 with Tommy Pham. He's batting .293, .339, .448 with a 125 WRC plus, and he's just an interesting guy because he doesn't sugarcoat things. They asked him why he chose the White Sox. He said because they paid him the most. It's that simple, and I kind of like how refreshing that is at times, although he can be kind of abrasive in weird ways, but interesting guy, and he's still able to get it done at age 36, so good for him. Heading back down to the negatives, though, our second down is actually, it's more of a bad luck thing. Frankie Montas had a somewhat rough outing in San Francisco that was going pretty well until Lamont Wade Jr. became just the 3rd player since StatCast started tracking launch angle on home runs to hit a 50-degree launch angle home run that left the ballpark. There have been a couple that have been inside the Parkers, that I'm not counting there. So there's 3 total now since 2015, I believe, when StatCast started tracking that. And one of them happened to be yesterday off of Frankie Montas, 172-foot apex on that Lamont Wade Jr. homer, maybe wind assisted, barely got over the fence. But that's baseball. That's why we love it. That's why sometimes we don't love it. But back to the good, finally, is Aaron Judge. He had a really, really rough start to the season where, it had, not me, I'm going to be honest, not me. He's my MVP pick. I never panicked. You know what? I'm going to give myself credit. But there were some people panicking on Aaron Judge saying, he's coming off an injury season and he's older now and he's a big guy. And all of a sudden, he is back to absolutely mashing. Over the last 15 games, 346, 469, 769 slug with 6 homers. Even better in the last 7 games, 375, 516, 1,000 slug with 4 homers in the last 7 games. Just going off, becoming Aaron Judge again. And that's going to help when Juan Soto has, the inevitable... everyone has a slump. I mean, Juan Soto hasn't had one yet this year, but he's eventually going to have a slump. It just happens, and then if Aaron Judge is hitting well, then that's okay. And then finally, our third down is going to be the National League. The National League as a whole is disgusting right now. Only 6 of 15 teams are above 500. The last wildcard spot is currently occupied by the 22 and 21 Padres. That is... gross. So not really much else to say. The AL has 9 of 15 teams above 500. They are just dog walking the National League right now. Those middle of the pack National League teams, pick it up. What are we doing here? But that was 3 up, 3 down. Hope you guys enjoyed that segment. But we're gonna go ahead and move right in to the next one because I kind of already said everything I wanted to say about that. We're going to be talking about the Luis Arraez trade because we didn't get to talk about it last week. I actually don't remember what day it happened now. But we did our April awards, so we did not have a normal discussion. But Luis Arraez traded from the tanking already Miami Marlins to the San Diego Padres for 4 different players. Those players included first baseman Nathan Morella, I think is how you pronounce that. A couple outfielders, Dylan Head and Jacob Marcy, who both entered their top 30 at number 10 and 11 respectively via MLB.com, and right-hander Woo-Suk Go, or Woo-Suk Go is perhaps how that's pronounced. They were all dealt for Arraez, and also Miami paid down Arraez's salary by $8 million. He was making $10.6, and they gave $8 million to the Padres. So interesting move. Basically, the question is always asked when a trade happens, who won? And in my opinion, I'm going with the Padres here. They did not have to give up any of their top 100 prospects for an all-star hitter with 2 years of control. They gave up some decent guys in their system, like Nathan Morella was ranked, I think, 8th or something like that. So it's not like these guys are bums or anything, but... to not only get 2 years of control of an all-star player, like Arraez is kind of limited in what he can do because of his skill set. He's not a great defender and he doesn't hit for a lot of power, but what he does do, he does at the highest level possible. And I don't think any franchise could appreciate that more than the one that employed Tony Gwynn for forever. So how about another contact? I'm not saying he's Tony Gwynn. So don't even take that out of context. But like he's the closest thing to Tony Gwynn that you can get in the modern MLB, and they got him for 2 years, and that's the big part. If this was just 1 year, this would be much more fair trade in my opinion. But 2 full years of control, basically. They missed the first month of this season, but that's it. So I really think that the Padres have won this trade. Arraez is already hitting better since he got there. The Miami vibes right now are at an all-time low. No player that's in Miami right now is realistically going to play better because they're in Miami. So, I think any guy that gets traded or DFA'd or anything and picked up by a new team, you might see them instantly just get better because the vibes are a thing, guys. I mean, I love stats. I love numbers, but their vibes are a thing. They do exist, and they do impact guys. So it happens. But yeah, well, Miami is already, that's a whole other segment at some point, because they're on full-blown fire sale mode already. It seems like they're going to be moving a lot of players. Basically, anyone with a pulse and an expiring contract will be traded by them. So be on the lookout. But anyways, let's move on to our third segment, which is the debut of Paul Skenes. Now, let's discuss this from, first of all, let's do this two different ways. First way, let's just talk about the outing. Without any of the background of Paul Skenes and any of the major media hype or any of that. Let's just talk about the outing. 4 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, gave up a homer, only walked 2, and he did strike out 7. So the strikeout was definitely there. I believe he allowed 6 hits. So overall, when you're talking about a guy that's just out of college, who just came up, this is okay. And even then, the 3 earned runs were kind of not all his fault. I mean, he did leave with 2 runners on base, but then the Pirates relievers just started walking everybody in, so I'm not even going to pin all of that on him. I mean, he might have, maybe one more should be pinned on him. I get why the stats have to do that, obviously, but just from how I feel about it. And so I thought it was a pretty solid outing, and he averaged over 100 miles per hour on his fastball. He's like one of the only players to do that in this season. So that's really impressive, and he had some good-looking off-speed stuff. He had some good stuff. There's no doubt about it. I know there's concerns about his fastball shape, but the velo is impressive. And his I think he can get away with that to an extent. I'm sure that they'll try and improve that. Maybe I could not imagine that they would do this, but the Pirates were a sinker ball org for a long time, so maybe they try and do that with his arm angle. But I think it's got enough velo and enough life to where it'll still play. It just might not be as good as it was in the minor league. I mean, there's no way it will be as good as it was in the minor leagues, because his numbers in the minors were absolutely silly. So it made sense that he was supposed to come up this early. But now, let's move on. Let me take a sip of water first, because we gotta ramble a little bit here. You can see the Nats hat. You know what's coming. Okay, so the other side of the Skenes debut is all of the nonsense surrounding it. And, I say nonsense because, listen, there were a lot of comparisons being made to one of my favorite players ever, Stephen Strasburg. And, I kind of get it, I kind of get it. The velo is similar. Strasburg had the velo thing at the time. Nobody was really getting to that very much, especially as a starter. So that was one comparison, first overall pick, pretty much right out of college, basically ready to go. So there's definitely similarities. But I think they were trying to push it a little too hard. They were kind of trying to say that it was gonna be the same. Like the same amount of hype and the same amount of intrigue from the franchise, and it just wasn't. It just simply wasn't. Let's all be honest with ourselves here. Nothing will ever top the Steven Strasburg debut. I really don't think it will, honestly. It's not like he went out there and threw a shutout or threw a no-hitter, which guys have done in their first career starts. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about the dominance that he displayed on that night with all of the, because his hype at the same time, Skenes wasn't quite as hyped in college as Strauss was, I don't think. Strasburg had a different level of expectation, and he matched it in that debut. I mean, his debut it's just an incredible moment. It basically was the first time that it was the birth of a franchise almost, basically, because the Nationals hadn't really had anything to really grasp onto. I mean, Ryan Zimmerman was pretty good as a young guy, but even me as a Nats fan, I love Ryan Zimmerman. I think he was a huge part of the franchise, obviously, it doesn't match the Strasburg debut. That debut really made it seem like that we were a real franchise, and it just didn't have the same impact. And he didn't match the numbers either. So, but I'm just glad that the comparison can stop and we can just focus on Paul Skenes being a good pitcher, because he will be a good pitcher. And I'm not trying to hate on him. I'm more hating on the entire spectacle of everything surrounding it, because it was never gonna match that, and they were trying to force it into something that it was never going to be. So, it's more of the media and how they try and build something that isn't there, and it's just kind of annoying. Like he should have had hype. Obviously, he's the number one pick. They just should have left Strasburg out of it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm definitely biased. So you can, if you're coming at it from a non-biased point of view, you let me know if I'm being silly here. But it objectively speaking, numbers wise, it didn't match the Strasburg debut at all. So. Anyways, let's get off of that. But we're not going into a much more positive territory, because I'm about to talk about the Cardinals. And the Cardinals just kind of piss me off, if I'm being honest. As an organization and as a team, they're just kind of annoying to me, because they should not be 16-24. I really don't think so. But here we are. Here we are again, just like last year. Cardinals early on, bottom of that NL Central. And it's really not looking like they're going to get out of this anytime soon without blowing up this team. I think it's really... I bet there's definitely Cardinals fans that I'm sure are ready for it as well. But this team's just not... They're not good enough right now. And they're not going to become good enough with this current roster, I don't think. I don't see how this turns around into making sense, unless you have some young. The only thing they really have is Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker, and those guys just haven't. I mean, Mason Wynn is playing well for his rookie year. I'm not going to say he's playing poorly. He's only 22. He's got time, but those two guys aren't moving the needle for this franchise as a whole right now, and it's really hurting because their top two guys are severely struggling. Although, I will say, Nolan Arenado is struggling less. Let's start with him. Arenado, there's reason to believe that he's going to be okay, but that he might not get back to Nolan Arenado territory, because the numbers overall aren't horrendous or anything. I mean, he's got a 105 WRC+, so he's an above-average hitter, by MLB standards, but that's not what we expect from Nolan Arenado. We expect one of the best players in the game, and that's just not what we're getting right now. Although the defense has been very, very good to start this season, so that's definitely something to consider, because he was kind of slipping a little bit. I mean, he wasn't a bad defender last year, but he wasn't Nolan Arenado. That's kind of my point here, is that he's not quite up to snuff for his standards, especially when it comes to the power department, because he's only slugging .372 right now, and that's a big issue up and down this Cardinals team. They only have one player with a slugging percentage over 400, which is Wilson Contreras, who has a slug of .551. If you watched last week, we gave him the 2021 Juan Soto Award, which was basically for the player who was carrying their team the hardest on a bad team. And it's only gotten more of a gap since then. I mean, Contreras is now at a .551 slug. The next highest qualified is, I believe, that's Alec Burleson, .392. That's not getting it done. So the Cardinals are just really struggling offensively. Pitching wise, they've been not horrendous. I mean, there's issues because they are old, and there could be problems down the line with some of these guys, but they do have innings eaters. Like Kyle Gibson's at 49 innings already, with a respectable 3.67 ERA. So I mean, they're getting something out of him, but it's just like it's not enough to overrule this horrible offense. And finally, we got to talk about Goldie, because I'm worried. I'm very worried, actually, because this is the first time, realistically speaking, that his metrics have not looked good at all. Like even his 2021 probably wasn't the best in terms of his overall numbers. Or was it 2019? Let me check that. He had one season with the Cardinals that wasn't quite Goldie, but the metrics were still there. In 2019. So in 2019, he only had a 117 WRC+. I believe that was his first year as a Cardinal. But you go and look at the metrics on Baseball Savant, all of these metrics, the barrel percentage, the hard hit rate, the X-slug, it's all still there. This year is not the case. He is not barreling the ball at all. That's a big concern because he's never had a problem with that. He's always been about a consistent 11 to 13, maybe even 15% barrel rate. It's a 5%. 5%. Or Arenado is worse. He's at like 2. So you got some big issues here because these are your superstars. These are your guys that are supposed to be your middle of the order bats, driving in all these runs, and they're doing none of that. I mean, Arenado's at least getting on base. Goldie's not even doing that. His slash line is disgusting. 197, 280, 279. And it's not like he hasn't gotten unlucky in certain ways. Like his BABIP is down, and his XBA is higher than this. His XBA is 233. So there's some luck factors, but realistically speaking, he's not doing much to help himself with some of these exit velocities that he's getting. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball right now. And it's still early. So it's not impossible for him to come back and have a good season. But he's 36, so it's time to start thinking about, like, is there going to be a decline coming? Arenado's 33, which isn't, or 34, I believe. I got to double check. Hold on a second. Is he 34 yet? No, he's 33. He just turned 33, so he's not quite as old. So, everyone ages differently, right? So it's not like they're going to become bad players or anything, but they might not be the superstars that they've been. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP 2 years ago. He was a superstar for a long time. Nolan Arenado has been one of the premier third basemen in baseball for a decade. He's a superstar. Maybe not anymore. That's all I'm saying. And then when you get to that point with the Cardinals where they are, they don't have guys that are going to step in and become those superstars right now. And I think they gotta start thinking about blowing this up and trading some of these contracts away, trying to get some capital back. I am of the opinion that this team should be selling come the trade deadline. I'm sure that there's lots of Cardinals fans that agree because they've been kind of just on life support the last couple seasons, it feels like. But I don't want to dwell too much on the negatives. We're gonna go and talk about something fun here at the end, because I have a specific pitcher that makes me very happy. I'm going to talk about Michael King today. Michael King is hilarious to me. He's the funniest pitcher in baseball right now. He is highly entertaining because you have absolutely no idea what he is going to do. He is currently coming off of a May 10th start against the Dodgers, where he went 7 innings. He allowed 2 hits. He walked 3, struck out 11, allowed 0 runs. Ridiculous to do that against any lineup, first of all, but especially against the LA Dodgers. And he's also done this before this season against the Milwaukee Brewers. He went 7 2/3, took a no-hitter into the 7th inning, 10 strikeouts, only allowed 1 run, 2 hits in the end, and 2 walks. And he also has all of these blow-up starts. He's just completely all over the place. He doesn't really do a normal start. Like, he has one this year that was somewhat normal. May 4th against the Diamondbacks, 6 innings, 6 hits, only 3 strikeouts, but no walks, no runs. So good, nice quality start. That's the only one though. That's the only normal quality start he has. Let me read you his stat lines here. He had the first start that he did in the Korean series, I believe, where he went 3 1/3 and he gave up 3 runs, had 5 Ks, 3 walks. That one's kind of doesn't really tell the whole story because he was probably on a pitch count. So let's just strike that one from the record. How about we? But then we move on to March 31st against the Giants. He went 4 innings, 2 runs, 7 walks, 6 strikeouts. So big walk issue in that one. Kind of a blow up. Only went 4 innings because of the walk issue. And then it goes directly into a 7-inning gem where he went 7 strong, I believe, on less than 100 pitches. And yeah, 94 pitches it says here. 4 hits, 4 Ks, only 1 walk. So an absolute gem there. Then he gets completely demolished by the Dodgers in the very next start. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 7 runs, 2 walks, only 4 Ks. Gave up 4 homers. 4 homers in 1 start. That's bad. Which he then follows up with that start against the Brewers where he goes 7 2/3 with 10 Ks, takes a no-hitter in the 7th. His numbers are going from 8.1 ERA to 6.14 to 3.14 to 4.19 back to 3.33. He's going all over the place from good to bad to good to bad. Then he goes and gets absolutely bludgeoned by the Rockies of all teams, but this was at Coors, so I mean if you want to say the Coors thing. But only 3 2/3, 8 hits, 6 runs, 4 of them earned, 3 walks, 5 Ks, and he gave up a homer in that one. Got bludgeoned again by the Phillies, they're the Phillies, they're pretty good. But still, 6 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, 3 homers allowed. Then followed by that quality start, and then this 7-inning gem against the Dodgers. It's just the very weird fluctuations that he's got between, like you don't know what you're gonna get. It kind of reminds me of Andrew Heaney a little bit because the Heen dog had a reputation of randomly coming out and throwing a gem where he would strike out like 12 guys, and he could still do that. And Michael King is right now kind of reminding me of that, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good or bad thing in the long term, but he at least proved that he can go out and shove against good teams. So I'm sure the Padres are probably looking at that side of it and saying, hey, if we get to the playoffs, we got this guy, and we don't, maybe he'll blow up, but we also know that he could win us a game, basically. So it's just very interesting going forward. I'm going to be monitoring him just because of that. I just think his fluctuations the roller coaster ride, if you will, is just never ending, it seems. So he's had 2 good starts in a row, though, so maybe he'll settle in May and really, really get it going. I think he's absolutely nasty as well. I didn't even get to talk about his stuff. He threw a sinker with 2 feet of run. 2 feet of run. 2 full feet to Mookie Betts. It was the most disgusting pitch you'll ever freaking see. And when you see him do that, you're like, how is this guy even hittable? But, when you have pitches that move like that from a funky arm angle, the walks can really get to you, and that's been his big problem. He had the 7-walk game, but I mean he's probably gonna walk 3 at least, and when you're gonna walk 3 at least every start, you're kind of putting pressure on yourself to be perfect because you're putting runners on base. So he's got to clean that up. If he does, he's got nasty stuff. He's got the strikeout stuff. He can go to double digits, and he can do it against the best. He can do it against a Brewers squad that's absolutely mashing right now, and the best team in baseball. So it's just really interesting to me how weird he is. But that's going to be the end of the episode. Solo for the first time this year, and hopefully not again too many times. I like having someone to bounce my questions off of and stuff. But at the end of the day, Nick's got to go win some games as a coach, and that's what's most important right now. So we will be rooting him on. But for the meantime, make sure to follow us on Twitter. Everything's going to be linked in the description and below so you can see it. Follow us on TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit like, all that good stuff. And in the meantime, let's go baseball. Peace. Let's move on. Let me take a sip of water first because we gotta ramble a little bit here. You can see the Nats hat. You know what's coming. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Wrong pipe.